Hello. There we go. Now Real Family Talk is on. Having some challenges in the booth tonight, but that's all right though. We will get it. We will definitely get it together. So I hope everybody's having a great evening out there. We are. It is a little warm in the city, beautiful tonight. But that's how it happens in Orlando. Sometimes it gets hot and humid, and that's just the way it is. But nonetheless, that's the way we like it. Love the city beautiful. Refuse to live anywhere else on a permanent basis. But let's go ahead and welcome everybody here that's with me tonight. Miss Monica is back in the building. How you doing, Miss Monica?
Tired, but I am here and excited to be here. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good, Miss Monica. Doing really good.
Good.
We got Mr. King's in the building. How you doing, Mr. King?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
Awesome. And we also have Jeremy's in the building. How you doing tonight, Jeremy?
I'm good. How y'all doing?
Awesome. And we got one of our guests. She missed us last week. She was out promoting the event that was happening last Tuesday, where the neighborhoods were out and the candidates were out. But she is here tonight with us. And her name is, of course, Miss Jasmine Burney. How you doing, Miss Jasmine?
I'm well, everyone. How are you all doing?
We're doing all right. All right, then. All right, so let's jump into the evening tonight. Oh, kind of difficulties tonight. But let's jump into the evening, man. I'm going to have Miss Burney talk to us in a moment here. But real quick, man, did you guys hear about what happened to Donnie McClurkin over the weekend? Over in D.C., they had an event celebrating Dr. Martin Luther King, the 50th anniversary of the I Have a Dream speech. And so Donnie McClurkin was scheduled to headline the event, but at the last minute, I think it was like Friday or Saturday, or about a day before the event happened, they called and said, Donnie, we don't need you. Here's the problem. Here's the reason why they canceled him. Apparently, as everybody knows, if you know Donnie McClurkin, you know his testimony is that he was a gay man, and then God delivered him from that life. And, of course, he's been living his life as a saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost pastor for several years now. So there were some gay activists, though, that were protesting, this idea that we're celebrating Dr. Martin Luther King, and then you have this man who basically claims being gay is something that you can be delivered from the Lord, and he's up here performing. How does that promote unity? How does that promote unity, which is what the Dr. King stood for? And so at the last minute, the mayor of D.C. said, all right, let's pull him. And so they pulled him from the event as to not anger these gay activists who are upset that Donnie believes you can be delivered from being gay.
Wow.
What do you think, Miss Monica?
That's sad. That's really sad. Much of which I would like to say I'm going to keep to myself, but I just think that it's interesting for a group of people to have so much power over everything, and to not give other people opportunities because they don't like what they represent because it's against their belief. So it's very, very sad.
It sounded real tapered right there, Miss Monica. Sounds like you got a whole lot more you want to say, Miss Monica.
Yeah, but I will not.
Say what you got to say, Monica. This Real Family Talk.
You got to give it to us straight, Miss Monica.
That's what I want to say.
The gay community is a major market, and that's why they said, you know what? If they not gonna spend the money to buy these tickets, then we gonna pull them. Because if they're not going to spend the money, what we having it for? We having it to make money. And so that's why they pulled the man. The bottom line is they spend money. And that's what it's all about.
But it's not just about that event. I mean, there were situations we talked about several months ago where the little boy was able to have his own or be able to go into the girl's bathroom because of how he felt about himself. There's, all types of situations all over the country that have been happening, particularly in the last few years, where gay activists just seem to, and like I said, have power to make politicians and other government officials to do what they're requesting. And I just don't see that anywhere else. So I just think it's, sad.
And, Mr. King does touch on a point there. The one thing you will notice about the LGBT community is in the last few years, they have put money where their mouth was. And unfortunately, money talks. In America, money talks in America. So those who have it get what they want done. Those that don't miss out. And, and that is a lesson that, we've been talking about that. Minorities need to learn that we need to, start having rallies and start putting money behind our efforts. And the more we put financial backing behind our efforts, the more changes we'll see for the things that we want to see, because money talks. That's what works in America. Money works in America. And those that are willing to spend it are those that get things done. And that's where they're at right now. They spend money, they get things done. And that's a lesson I think that we need to take forward, moving forward, even with our beloved black president, same thing. Money talks. And that's how we need to approach these things. And I agree with you. I think it's a sad day that some gay activists are mad that, this man wrote "We Fall Down."
I mean, and just by his
this man
period,
deserves.
he has a brilliant voice.
If nobody else doesn't deserve to perform at the Dr. Martin Luther King event, it's supposed to be Donnie McClurkin. But unfortunately, money talks.
It's ridiculous.
It's a lesson we got to learn, man. But the cool thing for Donnie, at least, apparently they said they still going to pay him. So he didn't quite lose out. He just lost out on getting his voice heard. But at least he's
still in the blessing business.
So we'll see how it goes, man. But that's interesting, though, man. We're going to move on. I want, let's go ahead and talk to our guest. This is, so you got a music for me, sir? Oh,
of course I do.
Oh, he's got the music. It's time for our moment with Jazz.
With Jazz. I feel so special with Jazz.
It's all smooth jazz.
I know.
Oh, that's our moment with Jazz. Miss Jasmine, talk to me tonight. What you got on the agenda for us?
All right. First on the agenda is the Florida sheriffs. They have come together and at the 2013 Florida Sheriffs Association Summer Conference have voted unanimously to support Stand Your Ground in the state of Florida. Every single sheriff in the state of Florida has said we are in support of it. And this vote came simply because of the challenge that our speaker here in the state of Florida and the Florida legislature stated that if we should change the Stand Your Ground law or make any revisions to it like our Democratic leaders really want us to, I am only willing to do that if I hear the stance of our law enforcement. If I hear and feel like they want this to be changed, then I'll take a stance on it. And they had all of our sheriffs vote over this past summer, last week I think it was, and every single one said that they are in support of Stand Your Ground. I placed this on my Facebook page, and on my Facebook page I received about 2 comments, but privately outside my Facebook page I was blasted with emails and Facebook messages and text messages, and the question was, did Sheriff Demings vote for this?
Of course.
And Sheriff Demings is our Orange County sheriff. And I said, well, unfortunately, I wasn't there. I wasn't present in the room. I'm not aware of how this voting took place. I don't know if it was a roll call vote, if it was a yay or nay sort of situation. And people were like, well, if they just based it off of the voices they heard in the room, then that doesn't necessarily mean that the sheriff of Orange County truly and really believes that Stand Your Ground should actually stay in the state of Florida. Well, we haven't heard from him that it should stay or shouldn't stay, so we really don't know. All we know is what the media is pushing out there, and it's stated unanimously.
Well, I can't speak on this particular incident, but wasn't Sheriff Demings one of the, when back when the Trayvon Martin situation initially happened, and they formed that panel that was going to examine the stand your ground law, and they were supposed to be traveling across the
task
state.
force.
The task force, exactly. I know Sheriff Demings was on the task force, and of course the task force came back and said, we don't really see a problem with stand your ground. So you're right. We can't validate where he was at this particular vote,
Right.
but he's been a part of a task force, if you will, that basically validated stand your ground. So I think by default, we know where he stands. And I think, too, politicians speak when they want to speak.
Correct.
And the absence of talk is just that.
and if there was a statement that needed to be brought out, I'm sure we'd hear from it. And if we are going to hear from him, if we ever hear from him, I'm sure that we'll have a conversation about that. But I just found that interesting how every single sheriff in the entire state of Florida, despite their political affiliation, despite their race, despite their connection to Stand Your Ground, particularly sitting on the task force, they feel like it should not be changed. I'm curious to know what the result was of the task force and what they saw that they felt like wasn't enough for us to actually change that law, as opposed to what hundreds of thousands of people across this entire nation feel completely different about.
Because
what is it we don't know?
It's not the law that needs to be changed.
Okay.
The laws don't say the laws don't vote yes or no. The laws don't vote not guilty and guilty. The judges and the juries do. The law is something that when I stand in front of the judge and the jury, you know what, I'm going to say I was standing my ground. That's the law I'm going to use. But it's up to the judge and the jury to say not guilty and guilty. That's what it all boils down to. It has nothing to do with the law. The law has some kind of, it has some vague, something in there that doesn't actually say, okay, this is exactly when you can use it, but no law does. So it's not really about the law. I think that the law didn't say that George Zimmerman was not guilty. The judge didn't even say George Zimmerman was not guilty. It was those 12 people that said George Zimmerman was. I'm sorry. How many other than people was up there that said George Zimmerman was not guilty? So it has nothing to do with the law.
Well, it has. I mean, they said that they had to prove him not guilty because of the way that the law was written.
But he didn't even use the stand your ground law.
Well, that's what he was charged with, though.
But it's still
that was a part of their jury instructions,
you are
and they had to follow that law
until proven guilty.
Correct.
I thought that's how it went.
You're absolutely correct.
So,
and based
what
on
that law got
law,
to do with it, though?
That is the law that they used to determine his guilt or innocence.
No, they didn't.
That was in their jury instructions.
It was in the jury instructions. But I'm gonna say this. I personally, I've said this before. I don't really have a problem with the law.
It's not the law.
I think the law is fine. I think the upset people that are going across the country, I think that's more emotional than it is about the law. Because the law has been in place for several years now. And so we didn't get upset until a situation happened that we thought would go one way, and then by some understanding or someone else's understanding, they use parts of the law. They didn't even use the complete law. They use parts of the law to basically affect a case and then create a judgment that we disagreed with. And so now the law is a problem. But, I mean, the law has been here for several years. So it's not the law that's a problem. It's our interpretation of how it was used, which most of it is still emotional, because, again, had he been convicted, we wouldn't be having rallies really about the law. That's the truth.
Correct.
We'd be moving on and celebrating the fact that he was in jail or whatever the case may be. So it's not the law that's the problem. It's just people, caught up in the emotional of the moment, and unfortunately they want other people to react on that, but it's not the law.
That brings up a great point, and that makes perfect sense. How many other laws are we dealing with in the state of Florida or in other states that we have no idea are taking place right now and could be singling out particular racial groups? And until it becomes a high profile case, we're going to sit back and just wait for something to happen instead of right now. We could be reviewing the laws that are taking place. This year I came in and talked about all the laws that passed in our Florida legislature. Let's see what's going to happen and what law, people are going to use as a tool of emotion the next time something happens or a high-profile case comes up. We have the opportunity to take advantage of that now. So that's a very good point. The next thing I want to talk to you all about is New York's stop and frisk law. This week, a judge in New York determined that stop and frisk is deemed unconstitutional and violates the constitutional rights of individuals. As you all know, in past years, this law has profiled men of African American and Hispanic descent in all forms and fashions. This goes beyond, this is the epitome of racial profiling for men in New York, and a judge decided this week that it is deemed unconstitutional.
Thank God.
I know. But get this, Mayor Bloomberg is saying that without this law, we are going to see an increase in crime. He stated that because of this law, we've seen a decrease in crime, and we've seen that crime comes from, we have statistics to back it up, that comes from these Black and Hispanic men. We know where it's coming from, and that's why this law was created, and we need to keep it, and I'm going to do everything in my power to appeal it.
I agree.
You agree with keeping the law?
Yeah, basically, yeah. We both know that, it's not racial profiling. It's statistically true that Black and Hispanic men are where the drugs and all that stuff is coming from because they're not giving them no jobs.
Well, think about what stop and frisk is, though. You have to, a police officer just has to feel like their life is in danger to stop someone, question, and then frisk them.
I tell you what. I noticed one thing about people that aren't Black and Hispanic. And if they got their license straight, they don't have no drugs on them, no alcohol on them, that's when they start cussing and fussing because they know it's nothing wrong. It's nothing. You can stop, you can frisk me, you can do what you want. I'm going to cuss you out the entire time that you're doing it because I have nothing. But if you got something wrong, then you got a problem.
Okay.
Now, if you ain't got nothing under your name, you ain't got nothing wrong, stop frisk me and go on about your business and go on about your job. Thank you for keeping my street safe and my kids safe because you stopping and frisking somebody who could have shot my kid, robbed my kid, or something to that nature. I have nothing wrong with it.
Hold on. Let me interject.
It is. At the end of the day,
exactly.
I'm not saying it's not that, but at the same time, I'm agreeing with the mayor because, hey, it may be harassment, but it's still stopping some of that crime. So, therefore, two things they would have to do. They have to give these Black and Puerto Rican people have to find jobs other than crime that they have to commit to feed their family. I mean, it's a catch-22. That's just how they keep the balance.
But here's the issue. It's not like everybody they stop is criminals. Actually, the majority of people they stop are not criminals.
You're right about that.
You got people walking down the street.
And they just stop
Hey,
them.
you.
They say, I read an article, somebody got stopped 3
your
times.
Pockets. Yeah. And that's what it is. And to me, it's harassment. It's one of them things. This is a free country. It's supposed to be a free country.
No, it's not.
Correct? I mean, I understand that, but I'm saying constitutionally it's supposed to be a free country. So, and this is not a police state, meaning if you stop me and question me, you should have a reason for it. And I should not have to go through this laundry list of things just going to the store trying to get some milk.
To both of your points, this is what the judge said. It says, while a person's race may be important if it fits the description of a particular crime suspect, it is impermissible to subject all members of a racially defined group to heightened police enforcement because some members of that group are criminals.
I'm trying to tell you, if I see a Caucasian male that looks suspicious, I'm going to stop and frisk him too.
But they don't.
But that's not what's happening.
But no. You may not hear of those cases.
No, they've got
they
the
may
numbers.
not
They've got the statistics.
So they going to count every person they stopped and frisked?
They had to provide a case.
Yeah, they have to.
Yeah,
They
I
got
hear
to
you.
document that stuff.
That sound. I was listening to Richard Pryor. And he
I
was
mean,
talking
I
about
understand
how
what
the
you're saying.
Chinese people had 650 million. He was like, "What? They stopped and counted? No, they ain't
I
started.
understand what you're saying.
I hear
Obviously, they
you.
can't count where they can't. They're
sounds
not
good.
going to name every single solitary thing. But is overwhelmingly the minorities that they're stopping.
Correct.
Because it's overwhelmingly the minorities that's committing the crime.
And that is
But
what
I mean,
Congress
about
said.
crime. This is
That's
not
statistic too, though, right?
No, actually,
No, that
not.
ain't no statistic.
No, it's
No.
not a statistic.
Oh, no,
because
they didn't count that.
But how you gonna be 12% of the country and commit most of the crimes? How you gonna be 40% of the country and commit those
Because you
crimes?
got the lowest employment rate too.
But that has nothing. Actually, we don't have the lowest. We don't have the lowest employment rate.
Hispanics do, right?
No.
Who do?
We do actually.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
it's
no,
one or two.
No, that's what I'm.
It's
What I'm
one or
saying
two.
is there are still more white people unemployed than we are. Is what I'm saying. I'm talking about sheer numbers, physical count. But anyway,
I agree with
Sister Jasmine, this is your thing. I wanted.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I love the conversation.
I just think it's not fair. I mean, for just the general population to constantly be frisked or harassed or stopped for any reason where they, do not have a particular cause for asking them to empty their pockets or whatever all they do, because I don't know all the detail. That's just ridiculous. I mean, you could be stopping a crime, but instead you're stopping random strangers that are not committing a crime.
You could be the crime. Your random stranger could be the crime. It's been sometimes that you heard, hey, if I wouldn't have stopped that car, they would have went to rob that bank at that time, and I stopped the crime. That happens sometimes.
Sometimes
it don't happen. But it may happen. It won't never happen if I don't do it.
I may walk down the stairs and skip a step, but that doesn't happen all the time. So
you may get into a car accident going home.
Thing.
It don't happen all the time, but it does happen though.
Then why are all the resources being used for this sometimes event?
I think
because it got to be stopped.
You're right. I think it's the law is wrong. Stop and frisk is wrong. Just the idea that you're able to stop someone and then frisk them simply based off the idea you thought they looked suspicious. I think, the principle of I get the concept of what they're trying to do, but obviously I think the manner in which they're going about it is wrong. And that's great that judge said that. But here's another question I have for you, Miss Bernie.
Okay.
So what do you think about, though, the fact that the gentleman who kind of ushered these laws into their existence was nominated to be the Homeland Security Chief? What do you think about that?
I think that...
and we'll be right to you, Deacon Ingram.
I think that we're going to need to look at the entire scope of this individual's background and determine all the things that this person has done collectively and not just based on this one particular item. Because we can bring that situation right back to home and look at Bloomberg, who has given our former chief of police $1 million for her particular race, and she can stand up and say right now, I am in complete agreement with stand your ground, and I am in complete agreement with stop and frisk, and we no longer want to vote for her because of this one issue, but we haven't looked at all the other things that she's done as an amazing chief of police. I think we need to look at the entire scope of this individual before making a decision based on the one particular issue that is stop and frisk. And I mean, a judge has already ruled this is an innocent until proven guilty sort of situation. Hey, police department is guilty of criminalizing people based on their race, and she's saying fix it. Review it and fix it.
That's why she's a consultant, y'all. Deacon Ingram, talk to me, Deacon Ingram. What's your comment tonight?
Good evening. I am amazed. I'm getting ready to come home, and I'm listening to the young men as they ponder their choices that they would make. Coming out of the New York area, I was stop and frisk at a younger age, and I'm telling you, as you said, to be walking down the street with your girl by yourself, going about your business, and a police officer gets out the car and say, hey, you, put your hands up against the wall, and I'm going to stop and frisk you. And if you have too much dialogue, you can be arrested for what? Involuntary holding back, okay? Because you are you're defraying, you are holding up the process of the police department. Stop and frisk for 88% of the minority community who's doing absolutely nothing to try to get 3% of the criminals. Shouldn't you be looking for that particular suspect? You don't go for a short black guy if the criminal was tall, light-skinned. But I can stop as many people as possible just because I can. If it would happen to the young white kids as much as it happened to the black kids, we wouldn't have this discussion. Just like with Stand Your Ground. Did not Trayvon have a right to stand his ground? But he was, everybody's talking about he had to go home. Why is that? Have a good evening.
Thank you, Deacon Ingram. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
So yeah, that's why I think, I think just the idea of the principle, how they use the stop and frisk, I think, in principle is wrong. Yes, I get they want to stop crime, but there's better ways to stop crime than to just randomly, stop individuals and, hey, what you doing? I mean, there's better ways.
And it's
like
demeaning.
you said,
It's demeaning. Think about what he just said. He's out on a date and he has to be stopped and frisked and put through that. It's horrible.
Well, see, what they should do is they should put something into place for the citizens. I feel like the law has so many things in the place for them, but the citizens supposed to have the Constitution, but that's always being belittled and always been amended to take away the rights of the citizen. So in his instance, if there was, I'm with a girl, I'm on a date, I don't have anything that looks suspicious, it should be some way that I can stop the police from stopping and frisking me or, doing something to violate my rights. But again, when I was in elementary school, I was always taught that the good have to suffer with the bad. If 3 kids was talking, none of the 12 of us was going outside because those 3 kids was talking. And that's how I was raised, and that's just the way it is. I'm sorry about that.
But
good
life
just have
is not
to suffer
school.
with the bad.
But life ain't school.
Yes, life is.
That's the benefit.
Yes, life is nothing but an
that's the benefit
experience.
behind
and then
it.
you
The
die
same
and go to
rules that
heaven or
apply in
hell.
school don't imply in life.
I could have swore that that's what school was teaching you for about life.
Yeah, that's what they're supposed to do. But school, they're going to be stricter. It's more of a dictatorship, I should say, because they have a control group. And obviously they're liable for all those. But when you get out in the world and you adults,
I don't
I got a right to
understand.
go to the store and get my milk without being bothered. Is all I'm trying to say.
In reality, we are not free in America. I know what they telling you and what they selling you. I hear all of that. But if you want to be honest and try to really make changes, let's be real. Nobody is free in America.
No, I understand what you're saying.
So
we
then
don't have
why
to go
we
into that
having those-
discussion.
Then I don't understand that. Then.
But
let's stop pretending.
But
Okay, but
we still have the right not to be harassed.
Right.
oh, okay.
Period. And
And
I have video evidence, I should say, of someone who definitely objects to that.
Hey, you stay off my Facebook page, okay? And I vent the way I want to vent, okay?
Okay.
Hey,
It's all right as long as you're not in New York. Go up to New York.
when I was stopped and
Looking
frisked,
suspicious.
I handled it like I wanted to handle it. I had my camera out just in case anything went down that I didn't like to go down because you can be recorded. And I handled it like a G. And he said, hey, okay, later on after I had calmed down and cooled down, I thought about it. Well, hey, what if I had a gun and I was going around robbing people?
So it's okay that every corner you get stopped because, you have dreads on. Or,
You're exaggerating with every corner.
Like,
I tell you what.
Every other block.
If I have nothing on me, go ahead, man. Do what you got to do because I already know the situation. Stop and frisk. I know the law. Go ahead and get this over so I can go back to my girl. Simple as that. What I'm going to give you a whole bunch of mouth for to try to prolong it, to try to look hard. If we stop trying to be hard with the police, they're going about their business.
But see, even if I was the girl that was with this particular person, I would even get agitated because why are we being stopped? Why is our
Certain things are
ability
not in your
to
control.
be able to
It's not in your control.
We're not in a
Why get
communism
upset?
country. Like
Why-
we have
why
to
build up
have
that
some
emotion?
liberty.
Well, why
and
have to be
some-
subjected to that, though? Why settle for the fact
Because
that is
there
just
is
the law?
crime in the area that you live in.
No.
That's like
no.
at the neighborhood watch. Why the neighborhood watch walk around my neighborhood? Because you're in a crime-infested area. Move.
I hear you, brother.
Nobody wants to think about the
I hear it.
solution.
I hear you.
They just want to think about, it's a problem that
Well,
they got
the
the law.
solution could be
but-
changing the law.
No,
Yes.
that's the same thing they said with stand your ground. It ain't the law.
Well, it's been changed now. Look at it.
Well-
New York has decided to change that law now.
Thankfully.
Thankfully,
New
yes.
York.
Would anybody move from Florida? Why do people from New York move into Florida? So obviously, it's a crime
way of
infested city.
living.
No, it's not about
Cost of living.
A lot of it's cost of living.
Well, okay.
The
I'll give you
overwhelming majority of people I talk to is always cost of living.
Yeah.
that. Well, I give you that.
And weather, too.
And
Yeah,
weather,
and
yeah.
weather.
You get tired of the
Right.
weather.
I guess so.
And more
Yes,
opportunity, they
And I
say.
guess the
Right.
law too.
Before
right?
you
No
go,
frisking
Ms.
stops.
Jasmine, let me ask
Exactly.
you another question real quick. This is away from the stop and frisk here. Obviously, this week, Attorney General Eric Holder talked about the different laws that exist in the books that basically, he says, put black men in particular or minorities in particular in jail more often than whites. The disparity in how drugs are assessed. So if you have a certain amount of this particular drug, you get this mandatory sentence. If you have a certain amount of this particular drug, you get this mandatory sentence. And so what he said to curb that, what he's encouraging his attorneys to do is to now not acknowledge how much drugs the individuals have when they make these arrests. What's your opinion? I mean,
I completely agree, and I'll tell you why. There's a case. I was working for Supreme Court justices in last year's election, and here in the state of Florida, our justices took on a case of an individual who had a certain amount of possession of drugs in his possession, but it wasn't enough to sell. But he was charged as if it was enough to sell. Case went all the way up to our Florida Supreme Court. Florida Supreme Court justice looked at the case and said, wow, this is ridiculous. We are going to overturn this case. And not only are we going to overturn your case, we're going to overturn 1,000 other individuals. And people were able to be released based on that because they looked at the entire scope of the case and how those individuals were charged in comparison to other people. I think that looking at this person's background, looking at this person's behavior, how that person's dealt with the case, in the ramifications of the law that make it legal for them to make these decisions, I think looking at the amount is ridiculous, especially when our men are getting arrested for weed, having, weed in their possession or having small amounts of crack cocaine in comparison to other individuals, particularly based on their race. It's ridiculous, and I think that he needs to continue that, and other states and other individuals need to follow suit, because here in Florida, they're already taking necessary steps to release individuals based on this exact situation.
All right. All right. 407-894-1680 is the number. 407-894-1680 is the number. What do you guys think, Jeremy, Mr. King, Miss Monica? Eric Holder did the right thing this week?
Of course he did.
Finally.
Of course he did. Because what people don't really realize, these laws contributed to us losing a generation. Now, I'm not saying it was the only thing. I mean, obviously, criminals, you do crime. There's certain circumstances that you going to have to reap from that. But just the disparity in the sentences has really lost a generation, because you got felons out here that don't necessarily have to be felons, and obviously it affects your employment status. It affects your voting status. So it's about time is all I can say.
About time. Mr. King, that's what you say, about time?
It's always about the money, man. If they pull you over and you got a bunch of stuff, obviously you got some money to get a lawyer to get you off. They pull you over, you got a little bit of weed, you ain't got no money, man. They gonna throw you in that prison and give you a felony, one of the two. So if it's about the money, that's all it's about, man. Bottom line.
Always about the money.
What it always boils down to, the one man with all the money. That's what it always, in every movie.
All about the Benjamins.
All about the money, man.
All about the Benjamins.
If you got the money, you'll get off it when you get to the Supreme Court.
I'm kind of mixed on this one. And, while I agree with you, Jeremy, and even Ms. Jasmine here, you're right. The laws have put us, especially minorities, in jail disproportionately over the years, based on these mandatory sentences based on a certain amount of a particular drug. And we've gone to jail at an excessive rate to that. And obviously that is wrong, and we need to correct that. But I think where we see the potential is when you have that situation that does sort of mandate that bigger sentence, if you will, if you're not documenting, the amount that was taken by or possession of by this criminal, how are you going to ultimately eventually prosecute him properly when the time does present itself, And that's the danger, I feel like, is in that universal wipe away, don't record anybody. That's that danger, you know what I mean? Because, it's one thing to go back and review cases and do the right thing, and that's great, and we need to do more of that. Mm-hmm. But then when we just universally stop recording it, at some point somebody's going to probably slip through the cracks on us that we didn't want to slip through the cracks, simply because we stopped recording. And so it's like solving a problem and then creating a potential problem at the same time, which is the same problem we had before. It's a shame that we can't universally address the laws. We have to step in and do these stopgap measures that, they make us feel good, but they don't necessarily solve anything, and it's a shame that, once again, government fails us in not being able to lead and make change, but cause other individuals who can sort of manipulate things, manipulate them, and maybe not to our benefit, I think.
I just want to add one little piece to that. I think the reason why there is an issue with the documentation is because there is a difference between the white man's crack and the black man's crack. and the black man's crack is produced differently than the white man's, and so the black man's it may be the same crack, but the form in which they receive it or take it is where the discrepancy is coming in at, and that is why they don't want to look at the amount of it, because there's a difference in how they're produced or sold and given out, and I think that is the discrepancy.
And crack carries a bigger sentence than the white powder.
Correct.
Which is, again, disproportionately sending us to jail. But again, why not address the problem as opposed to doing the stopgap measure?
I agree.
Which, again, falls back on all of these lazy, no good politicians, whether they be Republican or Democrat. But and that's why I think that's why I take caution. Great. It's going to stop some things, but then it could eventually give us a bigger problem in another thing, and so we're still kind of, again, it's a stopgap measure. It doesn't solve nothing.
I agree.
But it makes us feel great on the inside, Jasmine. I feel wonderful on the inside.
Me too. How do you feel?
Which at the end of the day,
You're right.
which at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It want to make us feel good on the inside.
Right.
So it is what it is. Miss Jasmine, we thank you for coming by. As
Thank
always.
you for having me.
We always enjoy you. You gonna play it one more time for us? There it is.
Have a good night, everyone.
A moment with Jazz. Miss Jasmine, thank you for coming by. We love you. Couple more topics, man, we want to run through tonight. 407-894-1680 is the number. 407-894-1680 is the number. So a couple other things, man, that caught my eye this week, man. In the last couple of days, of course, Miss Oprah Winfrey is like all over the news, man, over what I'm not even sure is a real story yet. But Oprah Winfrey's all over the news. Obviously, she's doing a lot of promo and press for her new movie, The Butler, which I think comes out this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. It's not this weekend, it's the next weekend. I'm definitely going to have to go check that out, The Butler. For those that aren't familiar, it's basically a story about a black man who was a butler at the White House for a number of years. I think about 30 years he was a butler at the White House. He ended it somewhere around the era of Ronald Reagan. Is when he ended his tour as a butler at the White House. But it's about that man and his family, which is actually based off a true story. So should be good, should be good. We'll see how that works out. But in doing the press, they asked her about whether or not she experiences racism. And she talked about how recently she said she was in Switzerland, and she went into a particular store, and how one of the sales ladies at the store pretty much refused to show her a particular bag because she says the lady felt like she couldn't afford the bag. The bag in question, they say, was a $38,000 crocodile skin bag made by somebody. And so the young lady thought she couldn't afford it, so she was trying to pressure her into seeing things that were cheaper. And of course, Oprah quickly let her know that wasn't an option, and and I believe she just left the store. And so the fallout, though, is that the supposed shop owner from Switzerland has now come out, and she's saying, "Oh, my sales lady never did that. If she didn't show Oprah the bag, it was maybe some kind of communication error, because I guess she said the young lady spoke Italian and English, but her English wasn't very good, so there was just probably some kind of misunderstanding."
But
blah,
she understands
blah, blah.
a point, right? That's a universal English.
Didn't this same exact thing happen to Oprah last time she was in the news? She was at some store. They treated her wrong because she was black. I think she was in some sweatpants or something like that because she was jogging.
Right, she was in Paris.
She was in Paris when this exact same thing happened. Now that she's coming out to promote a movie, I don't believe it. I think it's propaganda. I think it's just.
Well, they asked her. She did not come up with
it's
that.
Oprah,
She did not
okay?
say.
Oprah's affiliated. I think that she came up with some kind of propaganda because she in a movie. Let's get this real. This exact same thing happened to you twice, Oprah. Get real.
Well, you know what?
It could happen.
No,
I think it could have happened, but
Oh my gosh.
but that that's oddly enough that's the news, especially in the white media. That's what basically a lot of them are saying. Like, Oprah is basically fabricating a situation involving her to essentially promote her movie that's out now. But I have to at least I'll give Oprah the opportunity to believe that this is true, and I'll tell you why, because. We know. I mean, obviously, if you've seen Oprah outside of the show, Oprah looks usually pretty plain. Yeah. And a plain Oprah does not look like a rich Oprah.
She could buy a $38,000 purse.
A plain Oprah don't look like she could buy a $38,000 purse. A plain Oprah look like she might be need to eat at McDonald's. That's what a plain Oprah look like. But as a result, so if she's not all dolled up, she's obviously from everything we see, it doesn't seem like Oprah travels with this huge entourage. I'm sure the only person there was Gail,
her girlfriend.
So if we wanted to validate the story, I'm sure all we need to do is ask Gail. But so I kind of lean, and people in foreign countries, man, they're usually not that friendly.
Especially in Europe.
Especially when they don't think they need to be.
She was in Switzerland though.
But they're not that friendly, especially when they don't think they need to.
In Switzerland, they are very friendly in Switzerland.
Not necessarily, brother.
Have you been to Switzerland?
No, I have not been to Switzerland.
Well, see,
but I've been to Europe. I've been to Europe, brother. And Europeans are not always the friendliest if they feel like they don't have to be.
No, especially to black people.
Now, I can agree with her in Paris. In Paris, they treated me bad. And I'm light-skinned, okay? Now, when I was in London, they treated me great in London. I had a great time.
But London is not, it's a part of the European world, but it's a whole other culture in London.
Right, but I'm trying to tell you this. In Paris, I can agree with her. I've been to Paris personally. In Switzerland, though, like, no, come on. You just can't say Paris no more because you said Paris last time. No, man, this is propaganda. Can we please act like Oprah is a human? And let's tell the truth, okay? This is a propaganda.
People wouldn't go
God.
to the movie. I would go to see it. Please, I would go to see it, even regardless of that whole story, because I had heard the story, but I didn't know that was her movie. Like
it's not.
So
you haven't heard Forrest Whitaker come out and say nothing about this movie yet, have you? You ain't seen.
He's done some interviews too.
I thought he was promoting his other movie.
No, he's done some interviews for the.
I haven't heard nothing. I've heard Oprah on The View. I've heard Oprah on
she a businesswoman.
Michael and Kelly. I seen Oprah on her own TV show, on talking about the movie. Okay, and now she coming out with another propaganda story to push the movie so she can stay in the news. Okay, she's doing a great job. Okay, her publicist is a genius. I understand, but you did this last time. Okay, come up with a new story to start pushing your stuff, cause this one ain't working no more, Oprah. All right. You should have learned last time. Look better when you go out there, okay?
I respectfully disagree with you, brother.
Yeah. I'm sorry about that. That's just because it's Oprah. Oprah can do no
really.
wrong.
I don't particularly have any feelings.
It has nothing to do with Oprah. I'm sure she's not the first black person that went in that store and kind of got shied away because they didn't feel like they could afford whatever might have been in that store. I'm sure it's not the first time. And as far as the owner's perspective on it, I mean, what else is she going to say? Mm-hmm. Yes, she was discriminated against in my store.
Apologize.
Yes.
And I apologize for the discrimination.
Exactly.
No,
that's what the first dude did. The first dude did the same.
Hey,
I am so sorry.
That is not what
this is what we going to do. We sent Oprah some stuff because we don't want to have a bad name from Oprah. And that's what he did. He apologized, saying if that's how you feel.
Some people do not have that type of character.
Hey, but if I own a business, the customer is always right unless I know it's some phony baloney.
Some people still do not have that type
and
of
some
character.
people feel like just because it's Oprah, she can do no wrong. Like the two I'm sitting across from.
I said nothing of that nature.
How you doing
Anybody
tonight?
named Phyllis feels the same way.
We got Phyllis on the phone. How you doing tonight, Phyllis?
Hey, Miss Phyllis.
Hey, family. I miss y'all. Feeling a little under the weather, but I am listening.
Awesome.
And fussing at the radio. Really?
He's just been off the chain tonight.
Why are y'all messing with Oprah like that? This happens to people of color across the seas.
Why black people always got to be the victim? Anything go wrong to some black person, it's the black. The black person ain't do nothing. Sometimes black people be wrong. You know that, right?
But it's true. I just had a friend who just came back from Greece, and everybody that she encountered, they kept asking, one, if they spoke to her, one, was she famous? Two, in Rome, black women are solicited as hookers. Like, they don't understand what color is. When they see it, they think it's something else. If you got to be famous, you just can't be plain, and you're less than. Still.
That's not in Switzerland, though.
But the point is, in Europe, that's the point, man. In Europe, you don't see that kind of respect, because obviously, I doubt very seriously when Oprah walked in that store, they even knew that was Oprah. So all they knew is they didn't know who this was, because if they did, I'm sure they wouldn't have treated her in the way. But all they knew is this was a black woman who, in that young lady's opinion, more than likely, didn't seem like she could just walk out the store with a $38,000 purse.
I'm just saying, though.
I mean, and that's it's not even surprising
just because she ain't
that
kiss
would
your
happen
booty.
to
Just because she ain't kiss your
person.
booty, she ain't got to kiss your booty, Oprah. And that's what the problem was. She ain't want to kiss Oprah booty.
No.
Oprah bent over and said, "Kiss it," and she was like, "No, I'm gonna show you something else." And then she got mad. Like, come on, man. Really?
That's not about it.
It got to be racism everywhere a black person go and they get treated like that. You know, when I went to McDonald's and they had a little attitude with me, I didn't be like, oh, it's racist. I just like, this person got an attitude working at McDonald's. You better get your $5.75 rump up and make my fries. That's all I thought. I didn't think, you know what? I'm going to boycott the store because I got the money to do it in America. No.
Ain't nobody saying anything about boycott.
That's what she tried to do to the store in Paris.
Man,
I'm through with the propagandas. Okay, it's to sell this
I
movie.
see.
Everybody, let's just go see the movie. That's what Oprah wants. We're gonna go see the movie.
We are
Okay,
going to see the movie. The
that's
Butler,
all that
man.
she wants.
We are going to see the movie The Butler, but I don't think I think it's a little far fetched for everyone to be up and roar because, you know, Oprah, even with her I think she's worth $2 or $3 billion now. Net worth is somehow not capable of being discriminated against. I think that's a little ridiculous to think. I think when you got that kind of money, because you're such an exclusive category, you know, because most black people do not have that kind of money. I think it opens up the door for that type of racism to exist. That's what I think, brother. And I don't think anybody needs to, especially in Oprah's case, Oprah doesn't need to promote racism in order to sell a movie. She would be on the movie is not about the racism. The movie is about that man working in the White House.
No, it's not. The movie's about that man and his son and his family. That's what the movie's about.
The movie's about that man and then the experiences he had.
Have you
it's
seen
not
the movie?
necessarily about racism.
Have you seen the movie?
It's a true story, Micah. You can look it up on the internet and
It's
read the man's
based
story.
on a true story. That means that it has true events and they fabricate it.
No,
Learn what
the
movies
guy
mean
is
when
the
they say these
story.
words.
He
Based
passed
on
away
a
in
true
2010.
story means, yes, he was a real man that worked in the White House, but we're going to fabricate this movie to make it entertaining.
The rest of it, huh?
That's what based on a true story means.
Okay.
That doesn't mean everything in the movie is true. I just hope you know that. Please.
Well, you're right.
that.
I did listen to Lee Daniels, and yes, they did fabricate. As a matter of fact, they fabricated some of the situations with the son.
That's true.
So I mean, but again, the movie's about this man, the butler, and then the experiences that he had. And yes, obviously he would have experiences with his family. So yes, they are a part of the movie too. But it's about this man, this black man who again spent 30-something years as a butler in the White House. And pretty much, you know, as most black people did in those days, he kind of came from nothing, and then he ended up with, you know, this prestigious, so I'm using big words, Miss Monica, prestigious position of being a butler in the White House, which, you know, I think is, as far as the job is concerned, I could see why a lot of people don't give it a lot of credit, but to think you came from nothing and then you were in the White House for a number of years. I mean, you served presidents across countries, of different countries. I mean, that is something. That is something to sort of hang your hat on, if you will, because it's an experience most people don't get. But I think
Jeffrey did it on The Fresh Prince. For I don't know how many years. Okay.
But I'm sure that he heard a lot of. I know. I'm really trying. I thought he had took his headphones off. I really thought he was going to be serious about that. you hear a lot of things, and I'm sure that they probably did ask his opinion on certain things if he was in their presence.
I'm sure.
He probably, had some things he shared. So, I think it does have some, element.
We'll see, man. We'll see how
prestigious,
good or bad it is when it comes out. But I still don't think my original point. Oprah does not need to fabricate a story of racism to sell a movie.
Right.
I mean, it's just not what's necessary to sell that movie. But I'm gonna move on, sir. I'm gonna move on.
It sounds good, but we're gonna have to agree to disagree because obviously that's what she's doing.
That's fine, sir.
That's what she's doing.
That's fine. But we only got a few more minutes here. Came across a site though recently as well that took me back as well. The site's called Black Friend Connect. Black Friend Connect. And so here's the point of the site. The point of the site is a young black man actually created a site where you could go on there and essentially you could rent or a black person to be your friend. That's the point of the site. So you can go on there, you can let them know what you need that black friend to do for you. And essentially, I heard the young man describe the site. He's basically calling it actors, basically saying you're renting an actor. And so you let that actor know what role it is that you need them to play. And then he'll set it up for you. He says they actually go through background checks of the people that work for them. They go through background checks of the people that contract them to hire this black friend. And so they make sure everybody's safe, if you will. And then if everything works out, you'll hire your black friend, and your black friend will show up at whatever event that you have going on, and he'll be just that, your black friend and your best black friend, if that's what it needs to be, for that particular event. Before I get your comments, because I see Mr. King's already looking at me. Gentlemen, read me one of these. Read me the testimonial of the man who rented a black friend to be his best man at a wedding. Read me that testimonial.
My black friend was amazing. Deshaun Jackson was more than happy to be my best man at my wedding last weekend. All my white friends were so impressed. They didn't even know that I knew any black people, and one that would be my best man. Thanks, Black Friend Connect. The next time I get married, I'll definitely use your services again for sure.
The next time
satisfied customer.
Now this particular
Farmington,
man,
Minnesota.
he was from Farmington, Minnesota. You
What
know,
in the world?
ain't no black people in Farmington, Minnesota.
It's 3 or 4 of them there. It's 3 or 4 of them.
That's so crazy.
But yeah, the man hired this black guy
And
to be the best man at
Let
his
me put
wedding.
this disclaimer out. This is serious, y'all. We're not joking.
This is not a joke.
This is real. This is a
Right.
real website.
Well, here's the thing that really got me was services we do not offer. Anything that would be considered racist, of course, drug-related, dating service, or anything sexual, manual labor, or here's the last one, no touching of your black friend's hair.
Hey, now, you know that. You all know that'll start a fight.
What is that?
That'll start a fight right there.
No, it's true because they like to touch your hair.
Yeah.
Like they want to touch
they
your
do.
hair. I'm not gonna lie
You know how
about
many
it.
times I be in the store and they be like, "Oh, your daughter's hair is so beautiful. How do you get her hair like that?"
It's
I'm
like,
looking
don't touch it, dog. They want to pet you like a zoo animal. Like, really?
But yes, man, Black Friend Connect, man. Like I said, a brother started this website, man, and he hires brothers to become. Essentially, he says the brothers that he's hiring, because Deshaun Jackson is not that guy's real name. That's his actor name for the day, but he hires brothers, and right now they said they're based off Los Angeles, of course. Of course. Where else would have that going on? But eventually he says he's going to try and branch out and begin and start up in other cities and go from there, man. Black Friend Connect. So you can rent a black man to be your friend for the day. What do you think, Mr. King? And he's paying these brothers too. These brothers get paid.
I think it sounds like a black escort service. That's what it really sounds like to me. You know, I'm kind of interested. I would want to be one of the actors just to see how it goes.
I would too.
No, honestly, just to see how it go. The only thing, it depends on where you shipping me to. Cause don't be trying to set me up, you know what I'm saying? If it's in Bucktaw, Oklahoma,
but like I said, he does extensive background checks on the individual he hires as well as the individual who is, contracting to have this black friend, so that as far as, he does everything he can to make sure that there's no funny business going on with you or the person who's contracting to potentially hire you. So he kind of, he does everything he can to make sure that you're going to be safe, basically.
It sounds interesting. I'm interested, and I would love to be an actor.
I want to know how much they paying for this, though.
Well, they have a $99 sale down here.
But I mean, when I say
$99,
well, I mean, how much the actor get paid? Because you got to fly them to wherever they're going,
right?
Pay them and fly them back.
Right.
I got to get a room.
So that means a special Black Meat Connect
that
airline discount.
But you got. I mean, when you talking about business, you got to cover the cost of all your expenses first.
Right.
Then you got to turn a profit.
Very true.
So they got to be paying thousands of dollars.
They got to be. They got to be. They got to be. It's a niche. It's a niche market. So let
me read you this one right here. Thank you for providing me with such an amazing black friend this weekend. Jamal Williams was such a nice and friendly guy. All my white friends were so shocked when I pulled up to the campsite with my new black friend. Around the campfire that night, Jamal told us some funny stories about growing up in the hood and also gave fist bumps to everyone at least 2 or 3 times. He went above and beyond what I expected. I definitely be using your services again. Thanks, Black Friend Connect.
What was his
from
name?
Apple Valley, Minnesota.
What was his name again?
Who? The actor?
The actor.
Jamal Williams.
Jamal.
I'm talking about they just stereotype 101 name.
Is that the brother that had the dreads?
Yeah, that's the one with the dreads. That's the one that kind of looked like Brother King. His hair is just black. That's all.
Here are some of the services, Mr. King, if you were to become an actor, that you would provide.
Let me know. Fist bump.
High fives and fist bumping. Attending an all-white party to tell stories of your friend. Attending your favorite white concert. Outdoor and indoor activities, as in our testimonial.
Camping and beaver concerts.
And there is also a possibility, under a short disclaimer, of also having black women friends attend parties.
I was listening to the owner of the site. He was giving an interview, and in the interview he joked, and maybe he wasn't joking, but he talked about how he charged extra depending on the type of concert you ask your black friend to go to.
Yeah, I think that's good because there's some stuff now. It's like, come on now, bro.
Country and rock and roll. I couldn't even watch the Country Music Awards last night.
So if it was a country concert,
that thing right there is crazy.
He charged more for stuff like that. He said. But again, I don't know if he was serious or not. But Brother King, on the website, you can actually apply.
Thank you.
You can apply. They do have a job section on the website that you can click on, put in your information, and apply. Right. They do ask you to explain why you're interested in being joining the organization, though. They do want to know that. Right. So we thank you for listening tonight. We thank Miss Jasmine Burney for coming in and seeing us tonight as well. And providing us with a moment with jazz. This is your host, Jay Real. We will see you next week, same time, 9 p.m. Good. You can follow us on Facebook, Real Family Talk. You can follow us on Twitter, Real Family Talk. The website, realfamilytalk.weebly.com.
WOKB, Winter Garden, Orlando.
It's Gospel 1680 WOKB. It's 10 o'clock tonight, and it's getting ready to go down in the town. It is 10 p.m. I don't know about you, but I feel good. I feel good being in the body of Christ. Here's my man Fred Hammond right here.